So there's been some extreme flexing going on in Bahrain pre-season testing for the 2025 Formula 1 season. That flexing coming from the Red Bull RB21, a car that apparently has resolved the issues that were in the 2024 car that saw them lose the Constructors' Championship and could have seen Max Verstappen lose the Drivers' Championship. But in the end, they recovered towards the end of the season, and it looks as though their 2025 car has in fact built on those foundations that they built towards the end of last season. But let's have a look at this full article on the F1Chronicle.com. As always, guys, let's see what's been happening here over at the international circuits. A full pecking order will have to wait for now, but insiders are already starting to get an idea of which teams and drivers will lead once the 2025 season gets racing in Melbourne next month. Official pre-season testing began in Bahrain on Wednesday, where a total power outage marred the end of the running on day one. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in modern Formula 1, observed Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko. Indeed, that's absolutely the case, because apparently they're meant to have backup generators that would stop something like that happening in the case of a power outage, but clearly that didn't work. All the mechanics were using torches and stuff to see inside the car and make adjustments. I've never seen anything like it either. Even at night time, they have all those big floodlights on and stuff at Singapore and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and tracks like that. He was already surprised about the weather. We thought that there would be sun and warmth, but it's even colder than in Europe, Marko smiled to Kleiner Zeitung newspaper. As for the timesheets, it was early 2025 favourite Lando Norris at the top, followed predictably by Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton, however, was a full second off Charles Leclerc's pace. McLaren was very consistent and fast, as was Mercedes, Marko said, although the temperatures could explain why Mercedes was so fast. Indeed, remember when Mercedes was so quick? Spa, that's a cold track. Las Vegas, cold track. Silverstone, it was a cold track that weekend, and yeah, they won in Austria as well, but that was only because they inherited it because of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen crashing out, so it does make sense. And in fact, I mean, this article was actually written after day one. On day two, we actually started in rainy conditions in Bahrain. We had the intermediate tyres on at the start of the session for testing in morning on day two, which I don't think we've ever seen a wet session before in Bahrain. We've come close a few times, but that's the first time I remember seeing it. So yeah, we can't even avoid the rain even in Bahrain. But as for Ferrari and Hamilton in particular, Marko added, I expected more from them, but it's too early for a final verdict because there are still 2 days of testing left. We will see. In fact, Ferrari looked a lot better on day two. I think they were 2nd and 4th overall. As for Red Bull, technical boss Pierre Vaca pushed back on the narrative that the new car is basically a carbon copy of its predecessor, which only finished 3rd in the Constructors' Championship behind McLaren and Ferrari. We have made major changes to the car, but most of them are not visible, the Frenchman acknowledged, referring specifically to the cooling system and floor. We have also responded to the FIA's interpretation of the flexibility of the front wing. The latter is a particularly interesting comment, given that stricter flexibility rules for the front wing will only come into force in Barcelona in round 9. Red Bull is critical of the decision, arguing that it will turn 2025 into an expensive 2-part World Championship in the final year of the current regulations. Observers noted that the front wing flexibility on the new Aston Martin is particularly extreme, while Red Bull boss Christian Horner observed that this is just about every single car in the 2025 is very much looking like a Red Bull. Only Ferrari has gone a different way, he said. As for Red Bull, both Marko and Max Verstappen sounded very pleased with the progress the team has made over the winter to improve handling. Max's long runs were the best in the field, Marko said. We were faster than McLaren and Mercedes, especially with old tyres. The 81-year-old also said Verstappen has only failed to finish top because of their overall times because he was wobbled on his best lap. In terms of driving, quadruple world champion Verstappen said everything felt good, no negative surprises, just good surprises on that, so that's positive. We don't know where we are in terms of pace yet, but everything is working well and the car is doing what I want. We have to get everything under control, and that's all we can hope for at the start of testing. Marko went even further though, optimistically declaring, I think the problems we had last year have been largely resolved, or perhaps even completely resolved. Well, there we go. So it turns out that, yeah, Red Bull's problems are apparently solved. Would they say that if that wasn't the case? I don't think they would, to be honest. So, you know, Red Bull, like I said, I've always said this is for me, this is going to be a 3-car championship. for the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' World Championship. I think any of those 6 drivers in those teams, well, except for maybe Liam Lawson, I think that's a bit strong, but 5 of them drivers at least, you know, they've all got a really good shot. I don't see Mercedes being amongst them. I see them getting the odd win here and there like last year, but I don't see them consistently being there. But Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, I think they are all the heavy favourites. Those are the new big 3 teams, you know. McLaren are very much replacing Mercedes as the Mercedes-powered representative in that trio. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. What do you think of testing so far? It's very much thrown up a few surprises, really, when it comes to the weather conditions. It's not as you'd expect it to be. Very windy, cold for Bahrain. And like I said, it rained today on Thursday as I record this too. And I'll bring you a little review of that at some point, I'm sure. But absolutely wild stuff that you never expect to see in a Middle Eastern circuit. But here we are. You know, we've gone out to Europe to try and avoid the rain, and it's followed us. Yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. If you want to support the channel some more, do head over to our Patreon, our Substack as well. You can join the biggest Formula 1 newsletter on Substack in the world and become a paid member as well to get some exclusive member benefits. Same for Patreon as well. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see some more stuff like this, though, guys. Really appreciate your support as always. And have a great day, have a great weekend ahead, and let's hope this final day of testing is a very eventful but safe one for the drivers. And hopefully the rain stays away too. That'd be great.